This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
Okay, I believe, do we have Kiran Sidhu on?
Yes,
Kiran,
do.
how you doing?
How are you, Todd?
I'm great, Kiran. You're a jet-setting man. Growing Halo Labs all across this world. Where are you now?
I am in very cold Seattle, Washington. I actually had a day at home to wash my clothes and check my mail. But it's extremely cold here compared to South Africa and Lesotho. Let me tell you that.
Well, let's start there, Kiran. You just got back a couple days ago, anyway, from Lesotho. And how did it go down there?
It went really, really well. Can you hear me? I think my phone's fading.
Okay,
yeah,
I can hear you okay.
Amazing over there, meaning that this time I actually got to meet the king and queen. It was the first time I've ever sat down with the king and queen, and he himself is a farmer, so he was really excited about what we're doing, and he's going to come out and visit us in December to see our progress. And spent a lot of time on site out in the village, and things are looking really good. Big plants growing.
Well, without a doubt. And let's just go back a little bit to the king and queen aspect of it. And I know we've spoken on the show before about the acceptance in Lesotho about cannabis and the history of cannabis. But was it still a little bit peculiar for you, even, Kiran, to know that, you're here with the king and queen, you're talking about one of the oldest plants on the planet, really, and one that's still very illegal in many different countries, yet there's such a love and acceptance of the seed?
Oh, yeah, definitely there. There was nothing, nothing awkward about speaking about cannabis or marijuana with the king and queen of Lesotho. I mean, I think that there's this whole concept in Africa of what's known as an agropole, where, in China, you have these big industrial cities that are built around a factory, and in India, you have these IT cities or information technology cities. In Africa, and in Lesotho, they're building an agrarian, where we're down in Mafeking, they're building an agrarian city. So you're going to put schools, campuses, dorms, hospitals, all around cannabis. So it's going to be really cool. So you have the growing, the processing, eventually the packaging, you'll have R&D, but in the same thing, you're building a whole community that's wrapped around cannabis, which I find to be really, really fascinating.
Yeah, not only fascinating, but also sort of beautiful in a way, where there's this community, but also for the economy and for job growth. And I would imagine that that's one of the things that King and the Queen have vision for.
Oh, definitely. Just on our side alone, there going to be 500 jobs created. I probably think when I was down there, we probably have about 100 people working already, but there'll be up to 500 jobs created just in the next 3 to 6 months, probably even more. But then, for instance, the infrastructure around us, they're looking at restoring an old dam to give us more water. They're doing all sorts of power upgrades, and all of this starts building jobs. So the jobs start multiplying. And then the area we're in is going to be what's known as a special economic zone with special tax considerations. So with all of that, other people will be attracted to the area. So other producers, we hope, will come. And then part of the deal is we're going to be teaching the local farmers, if they want, to also cultivate cannabis. And then in the end, we're giving 20% of the profits back to the trust that owns the whole area. And then the trust is going to give it back to the people. So the whole thing is this sort of really cool private and public partnership between us, the government, and the people, in sort of like a symbiotic relationship of uplifting everyone collectively.
That is amazing. I never realized it sort of ran that deep in terms of giving back profits, and then the profits, of course, give back to the area and just continue to build. Where do you see then a place like Lesotho in 20 years from now in terms of being really economically stable?
About this, and I said that when I went to India in the 1970s, if you told me some of the farm fields outside of some of the big Indian cities would be these massive IT cities with these huge shopping malls and Mercedes car dealerships, people would laugh. But that was 30 years ago, and now you have these massive IT cities, which I call Death Stars almost. They're so big, and no one could ever have believed it. And I see the same thing with Lesotho and cannabis. I see all sorts of potential to build these agripoles, as they call them, centered around cannabis within Lesotho and other African countries. I find it to be really something that's, pretty unique and novel.
Yeah, inspiring without a doubt. Kiran Sidhu is with us, the CEO of Halo Labs. That's halocana.com, a publicly traded company. And you also had another announcement today. Tell us about the planned purchase of the Mendo Distribution and Transportation.
Oh yeah, that one is closer to home. Something we've been planning for a while, where we're trying to establish a base. As we talk about Lesotho having a deep cannabis culture, Ukiah and Mendocino have a really deep culture too. And it's really important when you're a cannabis company in America to have a presence in the Emerald Triangle, as it's called. And obviously our headquarters had been, before we became a Canadian company, Southern Oregon, which is the northern tip of the triangle. But the heart of the triangle and where the whole cannabis movement was founded in the 60s was in Ukiah. And so to be there is really critical, because that's where all the supply comes from, or most of the supply. And so now we have a good foothold with them. They already have sales. We're going to be picking up a lot more flour, a lot more pre-rolls to add to our oils and concentrates. And it just keeps our supply chain going and gives us some good revenue. And, it's in this day and age with cannabis stocks all down, you get to, we get more revenue than we have to spend in stock. And that's only for 9 months of revenue.
I mean, that's incredible value right there. I guess this is a good opportunity. I know your company, and I know that also you're cash strong as well. So are you continuing to look for opportunities to expand?
Oh yeah, we're being what I've learned from my 54 years on this planet is that when times are tough, it's the best time to get going, right? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. And right now is a great time to be consolidating and talking to people. And, we're talking to some of the largest cannabis companies, much larger than us on the planet, that some of who are private, who now have no place to turn. So they're looking to us as sort of their vehicle or their partner to help them raise money. I think we probably have 4 or 5 deals in the hopper. And, it was interesting. I was with Rich from Rich Live TV this morning, and he was talking about Berkshire Hathaway and how it's a good time to sort of be like a mini conglomerate like them. And I remember, when Berkshire Hathaway in 2007 put a whole bunch of money, billions of dollars, into Goldman Sachs at like $5 or $6 at the time to save Goldman Sachs. And I think that stock right now is in the hundreds, or like over 100, somewhere between 100 and 200 if you look. Yes. So yeah, now's the time, when, fortunes are made. You don't make money by buying high and selling low. You make money by buying low and selling high. And so we're actively looking at things to buy low and hopefully sell high as things come back over the next couple of years.
And do you know what Warren Buffett's sort of take is on the cannabis space at all?
I would say that I don't think he's in the space at all. I'm sort of visualizing Warren Buffett when I've been seeing him with cannabis, but hey, you never know, right? And the same thing with Bill Gates, and I'm just sort of laughing at it, but you never know, it would be interesting to ask him. Maybe you should have him on your show one day and ask him what his views are. It'd be really interesting to find out.
Yeah, I remember. I would love to know. I remember reading an article maybe 6-7 months ago, thinking that he wasn't big into the sector right now, but that some of the companies he was exposed to are involved somehow. So it's interesting, and I always look to when you see some of the great investors like a Warren Buffett maybe not being in the space, you sort of, in my opinion anyway, and what do I know? I'm nowhere near a Warren Buffett, but you start to think, when does sort of perception or when does kind of an old school mentality just get in the way of what I think is, especially for many of the companies, still, really good investment opportunities?
Yeah, it's really funny because the way I view our stock is our stock's almost what we call a call option or a right to buy, because at 30 or 40 cents, basically what you're doing is you're buying a call on Africa. You're buying a call on, California. Our stock isn't like a canopy that's trading in the 20s. It's more trading in the pennies, and I look at it as an option in the sense that, look, you buy a share of stock, 35 cents, but you do have the potential for the stock to maybe go to $5 or $6. So it's like, that's the way I view it, and that's why I take all my salary in our own stock, right? So I don't take a dime of money out of the company. I just take all of it in stock because I view the stock as, being, almost like a free option. Not a free, it's still 30 cents or whatever it is today, 35 cents, depending whether you invest in dollars, U.S. dollars or Canadian dollars. But I look at it almost as an option, on the future of cannabis.
Kiran Sidhu with us. You just again mentioned Africa. Are you at a point of finalizing that deal yet?
Very, very close. I mean, I'm literally, drafting press releases now, and but it's not been an easy deal to do. I mean, we're the first sort of U.S. Even though we're Canadian-based, but we're the first U.S.-based, cannabis company to actually acquire a company in Lesotho in cannabis, and it's not been it's blazing a new pathway on all levels. So we're getting there, and we're really, really, really close. I can almost see the ink on the paper, but we're not quite there yet. I give it a couple more days, hopefully.
And what is the feeling for individuals in the United States, whether you're just an investor or whether you're an advocate or whether you actually work directly in the cannabis sector? Are people starting to feel more positive with recent announcements about really where we'll all be in say a year or 2 years from now?
Well, the Canada's more deep into cannabis in terms of investing and all of that, and the U.S. is a little less. But I think the general sort of consensus in America is that we're still in the early days. That's like the whole analogy of a call option. We're really in the, or the right to buy. We're really in the early days of it all. And so I think a lot of people, are sort of buying and burying as opposed to buying and looking to day trade it in and out, at least in America. I was at my brother's birthday party on Saturday, and one of the neighbors came over. He's big into vending machines, and he says, God, I own a lot of Cresco Lab stock, and it's gone down, pretty far. What do you think? I said, I think what you should do is take it off your screen and not look at it for 2 years, and then come back and look at it in 2 years, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And he said, hey, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, that's, Kiran, it's really interesting you say that, because there's, with a lot of, how do I say this, retail investors, and, me being one of them really over the last 3-4 years, you get kind of caught up in following a stock too closely sometimes, whereas back to Warren Buffett, if you listen to his whole mentality, it's about buying that stock and buying that vision, truly investing in a company for long-term growth, which is something he's done so well. He's not just in it for a quick flip, at least from what I know him, and I'm sure there's a few he has flipped at a win or a loss, but it's long-term investing. Is that sometimes maybe a bit of a shame within the cannabis sector because things have gone so up and down that some people aren't just looking at it to maybe hold on to go, hey, I have belief in this company?
It's really, really hard because you can't see the future, and it's really, really hard to have that sort of conviction. But once you have the arrows in your back from the 2000 era, the 2007 era, you get a little wiser and you get a little bit more resilient. But yeah, I mean, I own a lot of cannabis stocks myself, other than ours, and I've sort of just, what I'd call is just sort of not even looked anymore. I just sort of put it aside and I say, look, I'll revisit it in about a year to 2 years and see where a lot of it's at. But I think that overall, I think the market's going to go up. One good thing to do is indexes. The Horizon Group has a bunch of indexes in cannabis, and that's another way to play it as well, is to invest in an index probably.
Kiran, one of the things you've been doing is focusing a bit on your Twitter and growing your Twitter at Kiran Sidhu, CEO, and that's Sidhu. Are you having fun being on that platform?
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's teaching me a new skill, and that's how to be really brief. How to do things within a very few number of letters, and it's a good skill to have. But yeah, it's fun, but I'm trying not to overdo it as well, because I can see how it can become quite the addiction. Twitter. I think the President of the United States probably enjoys it a little too much.
I wonder when he's doing it all the time. I feel like he's just doing a number 2 again, going on the Twitter machine, going off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it must be nice for you to have an opportunity to get in touch with shareholders.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a great mechanism. I really enjoy it. I think it's it's really sort of helped me to communicate to everyone as well what's going on, and to show them some of the funner things and some of the more interesting things about cannabis as well. Because cannabis, it has medicinal use, but it's also something to enjoy as well. It's something to help you sleep. Like last night, I come back from Africa, I can't sleep, so I smoke a good bowl of our live resin, and I slept like a baby, 11 hours, which I rarely ever do. So,
well, this is what I like about you, Kiran. You're an advocate of it. It's of the plant itself, and not just this CEO sort of conglomerate type. And we're gonna highlight that in a podcast we're launching soon, aren't we?
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to cannabis.
Oh, man. Well, I look forward to that. And I know that behind the scenes, Bilal and I and your great team over at Halo Labs are going to help with this podcast, because you do communicate so well, not only here on this program, but any program you go on. And it'll be nice to have your own that you have ownership of and get to spread your message. I think it's so important for, for me knowing you, but for really a lot of people to get to know who you are. And that is, I think it's advocate first, it's education second, and then third, it's, hey, and I can't give financial advice, but hey, let's, build a great company together. And that's what I know you're putting your best foot forward to doing. We look forward to future announcements, looking forward to seeing, hopefully a close on that Lesotho, South African property. And man, we can't wait to get you back on the program soon.
Hey, thanks for having me, Todd, and have a good evening out there.
Of course. Kiran Sidhu, everyone. Go and give him a follow at Kiran Sidhu, CEO, Halo Labs, HaloCanada.com. And it's always great to get this great wealth of knowledge from a very successful man, quite frankly, and a very good dude.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.